Hi there, everyone. My name is Tim Holtzman, and I'm here today with Drew Nelson, marriage and family therapist intern with Grateful Heart Holistic Therapy Center. Thanks for joining me today, Drew.
Thanks, Tim. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited to go into some of this content here.
Great.
So the first question, Drew, as a sensorimotor psychotherapist, how does your approach to therapy help clients change and heal?
Sensorimotor psychotherapy is really geared towards helping people with trauma backgrounds, with beliefs and thoughts that are really limiting and difficult. Our theory about change is that when we have really difficult experiences in life, they don't just affect our thoughts and emotions and beliefs, but they also affect our bodies. The way trauma works is that when we go through a dangerous event, our bodies work really hard to keep us safe. One of the great ways that our bodies have evolved is to have this built-in safety mechanism for when we're in danger. And some of you may be already familiar with the fight and flight response. We elaborate it as more of a fight, flight, freeze, and sort of submit response. So fight, of course, is our bodies get us ready to fight against whatever it is that is making us unsafe. Flight, our bodies get us ready to run and get away and escape. Freeze is kind of a don't move, wait for the other shoe to drop, waiting for the next dangerous thing to happen and being ready for it. And the submit is kind of a low energy, low power, sort of numb, not very conscious of what's going on in the present moment, kind of low activation. And what that does is it helps us survive something unsafe when we're trapped and cornered and we can't escape or fight our way out of it. So all of those different responses are part of the way that our brains and bodies activate our central nervous system to help keep us safe and survive. So what happens with trauma is when we go through something unsafe, those responses start to get sort of over-habituated. So when we go through anxiety, when we go through depression, when we have substance abuse issues, when we have insomnia, hypervigilance, when we feel hopeless, when we feel trapped, when we have panic attacks, all of those things are actually our bodies mobilizing to help us survive. Substance abuse, eating disorders are both sort of escaping behaviors. They help us to not be present in the moment with our overwhelming feelings that are just too big to handle. Anger, irritability, that is a fight behavior that helps keep people at a distance so that they can't hurt us. So things like that really help our bodies survive. However, when they become over-habituated, they actually work against us in being able to be present to life, to achieve our goals, and to have that sense of calm and peace and well-being that we all want.
Mm-hmm. Got it. So it's these symptoms that are both causing us to not be able to access this present moment stuff. And then, so what you're doing in therapy is to try to get rid of some of those symptoms. And so what I'm trying to kind of get an understanding of is what is it that you would do in a room to try to mediate some of these symptoms and help them become able to be more present?
Good question.
Mm-hmm.
So when our bodies go into this fight, flight, freeze, submit kind of response, it's an automatic response, which means that it bypasses our conscious brain, the noticing brain, the brain that is the part of the brain that is able to act instead of react in the moment. And the biological reason for this is that back in our earlier stages of evolution, in more primitive times, if, say, there's a predator around and we're not at the top of the food chain, what's going to help us survive is to not have to stop and think and process, oh, there's a predator nearby.
Yeah.
Instead, being able to shut down that part of the brain and just react immediately. As soon as, on a subconscious level, we start to register that there's something dangerous, that actually saves us from danger. However, when the brain and body sort of hijack your ability to sort of notice and be in the present moment, that takes away one's ability to be calm and act thoughtfully. So in my work as a sensorimotor psychotherapist, the way that we sort of heal trauma is that we wake up that noticing brain. Because when that noticing brain is online, it sends a signal to the part of the brain that's like, danger, that everything is safe. So in that way, we're able to help calm the nervous system, stop these intense fight, flight, freeze, submit behaviors, and help people to be, again, more present to life, to be able to concentrate, to be able to respond in a thoughtful way to their environment, and feel a sense of equilibrium and calm and peace. So we work with a kind of mindfulness, which is turning on that noticing brain to when somebody becomes triggered. And we work with those triggers in helping to get that noticing brain online, and that actually rewires the brain to make it less reactive. Yeah. And so that is kind of the way that we utilize neuroscience research in SP to help people come into what we call a window of tolerance.
Yeah, and I'm also really curious about the somatic piece where you're actually identifying certain postures or certain energies that you're feeling in people's bodies, and what you're actually doing in the therapy to actually, by pointing that out and by helping people work through some of those physical things that you're noticing. What is that like? What's going on there when you're doing that in therapy?
Okay, so why this is called a somatic therapy, which soma means body, I believe in Greek, is that we want to turn on that noticing brain by noticing what's going on in our bodies as we're triggered, because being triggered is a visceral experience. We don't just experience it with our emotions and our thoughts. Our whole body is involved. And because the body is involved, bringing attention to what's going on in the body actually helps to calm it. So, say if I notice, Tim, that your shoulders come together when you talk about difficult experiences in your life, I may ask you to notice that, to notice your shoulders, and to kind of go into yourself and kind of notice when you pay attention to your shoulders, sort of what that's like when the shoulders come together. Is there a feeling? Is there a sensation? For example, is there a buzzing, or is there a pain, or is there a tingling, or is there a tightening? What is it that happens in those shoulders as they come together? And what does it mean for those shoulders to come together? Is it a protective thing? Is it just a tension thing? Um, what are those shoulders or what are those shoulders trying to do?
Mm.
Are they trying to protect you? Are they trying to uh, keep something in that wants to come out?
Mm.
It could mean a lot of different things. As we notice those shoulders, what's going to happen is it's going to turn on that noticing brain and help you to be less triggered, to find that balance of where you can act instead of react, where you can identify that the memory that you're having that comes with those shoulders is actually a memory and not something that is happening here and now.
Nice, nice. So using the body as a way to access material that might be unconscious, or things that we believe that we don't even recognize we believe.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah.
Great, great. And so I'm curious about how you might speak to someone who might be interested in working with you. Like what would they expect from you in a room? Like, what might you do from session to session in the room that is sort of the mechanism of change?
Yeah, so what I might do is have someone, when I notice something happening in the body, just kind of point it out and say, I noticed your legs started moving when you talked about that time that you were with your mother and you had the car accident, or when you talked about that time that you witnessed your father beating up your brother, or whatever it is. You see that leg going, and notice that leg, and what does that leg want to do? What kind of is it an energy? Is it a pain? Is it a burning? Is it what is it that you're experiencing with that leg? Notice that leg. And as we're noticing that, again, we're trying to bring that memory that's associated with what's going on in that leg. We're trying to bring that noticing brain online, and then sort of rewire that experience so that that memory loses a lot of its punch. Make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we do this very, very slowly, and we don't just start the first session that way. Usually, when I start to see a client, our first few sessions are just kind of getting to know each other. I get to hear your story. You get a sense of how I work. And we really get a chance to sort of establish a connection, a working connection. And then we can sort of identify what is happened in your life that's really making it hard for you to have the life that you want to have. And we kind of go from there.
Great. Yeah, that makes sense to me. I feel like I got a good grip of that. Is there anything else that you would like to sort of share with like what they can expect from you, and like maybe what type of client would make a good fit for this type of work? Maybe.
Any kind of client who might have problems with depression, with anxiety, again with substance use, any kind of addiction, really. Difficulty with panic attacks, difficulty with sleeping, sort of feeling hopeless, feeling trapped, feeling stuck. Often what trauma will do is make somebody feel kind of stuck, like they can't really move out of where they are and onto achieving the goals they have for their lives. And oftentimes there might be some kind of trauma that's happened that we may not even remember. And yet and yet you're going through those fight, flight, freeze, submit behaviors, or experiences, I should say, that are sort of making it hard to get through life and making you feel stuck. And so this is the kind of thing that I work with, and that's the kind of client that I can help the best.
Great, great. Well, hey, thanks so much for sharing all that. I wonder if there was anything you would like to just sort of leave our audience with, anything you'd like to sort of emphasize in closing?
Just that change is possible. With sensorimotor psychotherapy, often we do best with people who have gone to talk therapy before, maybe for several years, and really are kind of not quite getting what they need or what they want. Feeling kind of stuck with therapy. It's not quite getting you where you want to go. Oftentimes, a somatic therapist can sort of help you get unstuck in that way, because we're coming at this from a slightly different angle.
Great, great. Yeah, so what I'm hearing is that if traditional talk therapy hasn't been as effective as people have wanted, and yet they're still noticing a lot of ailments in the body or physical stuff, it might be a great fit to be working with you. So
yeah, it's not necessarily ailments in the body, but deep depression, extreme anxiety, panic attacks, things like that. Those are really actually survival responses. Our bodies are actually trying to help us survive something. And so without addressing it from that sort of angle, it's really hard to make progress.
Hey, thanks so much for coming and sharing. I really appreciate you being here.
My pleasure.
Okay, well, thank you all for listening in.